Morning, people. It is still just about morning. Oh, overslept this morning. I normally, on a Saturday, if I can make it, do a walk and a dip, do some cold water dipping. My alarm went off at 7:30. I just knocked it off, lay in bed, shut my eyes, and the next thing it's 8:30. I must have needed more sleep. So, yeah, it's about 8:45 now, and I am absolutely shattered. Anyway, I'm talking about books again today. But today, I'm going to talk about the books that I couldn't finish. The books that were recommended, the classic book or whatever, and I just could not finish them. They didn't resonate with me, whatever. Moby Dick. I don't have a copy of it here, but yeah, Moby Dick. I didn't study it in school. Recommended to me by friends in sort of was in my 20s, and maybe it proves that some of the warnings about cannabis use are true, because it was always stoners that love Moby Dick. Oh, we love Moby Dick. It's like, life changing and all that. Oh, for me it wasn't. I just found it very wordy. It just did not get going. I got a few chapters in, and I know at the time when those sort of books were being written, like Dickens was more or less paid by the word. The longer, more serialised he could make a book, the more money he got, and he was an expert at that. So let's move on a bit. Moby Dick, similar. It's just very wordy. It's in film, different versions of it. But the book, I just could not get into. It was just like, I don't know. Didn't resonate with me. The next book I could not finish. Jack Kerouac's On the Road. So yeah, again, in my 20s, and you're going through that post-teenage thing or teenage thing of trying to invent yourself, who you are, and on the road, it's brilliant. It's like the beat poetry. It's like the beginning of the sort of a beatnik, which led on to the hippie movement and all that. So it's one of those sort of classic tomes. I got about 3/4 of the way through it. Just found it a bit self-indulgent, really. It was just an endless story about drunken debauchery and all the rest of it. And I've read books about that. I mean, I've got Mark Manning's Fucked by Rock, which is about the band Zodiac Mind Warp, and endless stories about hedonism and debauchery. And I read that and I enjoyed it. But On the Road, I don't know. I think it's, again, everybody makes such a big deal out of how Kerouac wrote it. He wrote it as like a stream of consciousness. He sellotaped paper together so he wouldn't have to, and as he was typing the thing, he wouldn't have to keep changing the paper to ruin his concentration. But doing something in an unusual manner doesn't necessarily make it better. And yeah, I've read Ken Kingsley, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, which is set, slightly later, but similar sort of subject matter, similar time. And with my fascination with the hippies and teenagers and sort of the 60s and all that, I should, but On the Road, nah, just not for me. But it's not all like classic 50s and American novels as well. Cormac McCarthy. Both All the Pretty Horses and The Road. I mean, the film of The Road's bad, if you've seen it. The book's worse. I don't know how it ends. I assume it ends the same as the film because I couldn't finish that either. And All the Pretty Horses I could only get. It's sort of All the Pretty Horses is supposed to be sort of about modern day cowboys and sort of kind of it's sort of. Well, that's what I got from the first chapter or two. I was into it and I just couldn't finish it. And I've read some shite, and I've got to the end of some shite as well. But sometimes a book, and normally it's everyone else going, "Oh, you've got to read this book. You've got to read this book. This is the book," and it's like, oh. So you take it on other people's recommendations, and I've read stuff on other people's recommendations and really enjoyed it. But yeah, not those. There's probably some more that I couldn't finish or whatever, but I just can't remember. I'm so yeah, a bit tired this morning. But there are probably a few more. But yeah, those are the ones that spring to mind. And I suppose it sort of goes back to my youth. Growing up in a little market town. Which I don't blame, my parents wanted to live, my mother wanted to live there and all that. And I don't blame them. You can't blame your parents for when and where you're born and where you grow up, really, can you? This is an awkward mug to drink out of because of its shape. These novelty mugs are a little bit awkward. You have to sort of pick the right angle. At the back here you can't, at the side you can't. You've got to sort of do it at the 45-degree angle. And you can only really sip coffee from it. But it's a large mug and I wanted a large coffee. Yeah. Teenage, growing up, teenage and all that. I've said before, I was a heavy metal kid. I was one of them little kids you see you don't see them now. So let's start that again. I was one of those kids you saw walking around, long hair, denim jacket, jeans, band logo t-shirt or whatever, patches sewn on, sometimes a denim waistcoat with patches on it. This, and that was my identity that I'd chosen. And I had friends. I fought a few friends and I fought some very good friends. None of these friends I see and speak to now. Not a single one of them. I still speak to and see a couple of friends from school. Friends that were into the same type of music but certainly didn't adopt the look and all that. But yeah. And I'm not embarrassed to, there are no photos and all that because it was sort of pre-photo, pre-mobile phone times. But there are no photos of me looking like that and dressed like that. So I can only go by what I can remember, really. And as I got out of my teens, and into my 20s, I hung around with these people. We hung around like the biker contingent. And then it's all sorts of cliques and all, you got the biker contingent, all these older blokes and all that, and women who ride motorbikes, and they were proper bikers. I don't think I knew any Hells Angels, but they were weekend bikers. Avo and all that rode a bike every day of the year. I think Avo was in his 40s when he first got a car. But yeah, some of these people were just pure 100% bikers. It was all about the bike. And of course, bikers. And then, like a Venn diagram that overlaps, you've got the potheads as well, because, a lot of them do, and you've got the pop politics and the pop community. And, it's 2021 now. It's on the verge of being legalised in Germany. It's, legal in certain American states. When I lived down in Wild Mill, the smell of cannabis was all day long pervasive. Police and council did bugger all about it, but yeah, it stank. And when we used to go to the auctions, used to be walking along and it smelled someone and they'd absolutely stink of it. So, there's people doing it. And you watch these like police camera action, police interceptor programs, they're pulling people over, and most of the people they pull over, they're pulling them over and they're sticking their heads in the car and they're like, we can smell pot, and they're pulling them over for drugs and all the rest of it. I disagree with drug driving just as much as I disagree with drunk driving, don't get me wrong. I don't advocate being stoned and doing, factory work, or, if you're a doctor, or whatever. But we don't know anyway, As far as I know, we don't drug test professionals. So you don't know, when you go and see a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, whether they have a cannabis habit or not, do you? They won't get, But anyway, I'm wandering off the point. Yeah, it's like a Venn diagram. The bikers, the pot heads and all that, but it was all resin, and it was all having to go to the cities, and someone would go to a city, drive up and buy a block, and then it would get, the dealers would chop it down and chop it down and all that, and, all the rest of it. There was none of this growing it everywhere like it does now. There was none of this, we're breaking in, old industrial units are being found as cannabis farms. There was none of that happening in the 80s, not as far as I know anyway. Yeah. Well, time's getting on actually, and I don't know how long it's going to record for, so this might have to be a two-parter. I'm going to stop it recording now. Peace out.